Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Mess. So, Derek and I have a fun and exciting video for you guys today because over the weekend, Diddy Kong Racing hit 100% decompiled status. If you missed the video I ran maybe 3 or 4 months ago, I told you there was an active in-progress decompilation project for Diddy Kong Racing, and I felt like maybe it would be finished up by late summer, early fall. Seems like I was wrong on that one because it's hit the 100% mark right dead smack in the middle of summer, and that is some hot news, pun very much intended. And if you're not familiar what a decompilation project is, I will get into that later in the video to explain to you what it means and how it differs from a static recompilation, even if at the end of the day they both end up as executables you can double click on your PC and sit down and play a game. But honestly, Diddy Kong Racing, every bit as good as Mario Kart, in my opinion, a better game out of the two, but I'll let you guys argue that in the comments, just try to be cool about it. And something like this, running on PC, think about 16:9 widescreen support, 120-200 frames per second, stuff like that is what we can get out of this decompilation project when and if it goes to a PC port. Like I love to remind everybody, just because a project hits 100% decompiled status does not mean you're going to see a PC port next week, next month, or next year. Now I know a lot of people are definitely working on this, and I even know a port over to Dreamcast is being tested right now, so I don't really think we're going to be waiting all that long for a PC port, but because I don't have a time frame, I don't want to get your guys' hopes up. If we get too much further involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. But Rare absolutely nailed it with the formula of Diddy Kong Racing. If you haven't told already, I am playing this on Mister with the overclock N64 core and a performance patch on it to basically get persistent 30 frames per second, if not better. And that is probably the fastest way to play something like Diddy Kong Racing outside of analog 3D or emulation. But obviously it's still not getting to the point where we're getting 60, 120, 240 frames per second like you kind of see sometimes on PC ports. So if you take a look at the actual repo here, you're going to see that this project has been in the process for a long time now, and it finally came to fruition, hitting 100% of the decompilation being done. And to explain that, if you're not familiar, when you put a Diddy Kong Racing cartridge in an N64, it's executing the compiled code, basically the game in and of itself, and that is compiled from the source code. So to decompile it, you're basically taking that compiled game and then bringing it back into its origin source code, something that you can then port to other platforms as a source port, where a static recompilation statically recompiles all the code at runtime for the CPU code, for GPU, everything else like that. And even though neither one is either better or worse inherently than the other, they are completely different, even if the best of the best, you really couldn't tell the difference between the port and the recomp. But this is going to allow not just for something like a PC port of Diddy Kong Racing in the future, it'll also allow for a metric crap ton of mods, because now people can go under the hood and take a look at the source code and see exactly what's going on with the game. And that won't just be useful for mods, people that love to speedrun this game, understanding the physics, the shortcuts, and how the game engine works, and how you can shave off those hundreds of seconds. They will go through this source code with a fine-tooth comb and try to figure out exactly what the game is doing under the hood. And that really is going to be fun, and I feel like you're going to see a lot of new speedrun tactics be produced because of this decompilation. But it really opens the door for this game to be so much more than it is, and trust me, it's already amazing. And in some instances, you can get the game to run at 60 frames per second with the performance patch and with an overclocked N64, but again, that will have nothing on something like what you get from a PC port. Now if we take a look at Harbor Master Spaghetti Kart, the Mario Kart 64 decompilation based PC port, you're getting stuff like widescreen, ultra wide, 120-240 frames per second, mods, and everything else your heart could possibly desire. And again, this is still in active development, so it's one of those things, it's only going to get better. And even though the best patches and the best mods for Diddy Kong Racing are incredible, they're never going to be able to rival what you get when you actually port it over to PC as that actual source port. So that's what the future is looking like for Diddy Kong Racing, and that is absolutely outstanding. And hopefully when it does get done, we also get some networking support so you can play some online races as well. Because if you're like me, you have a full life, a spouse, and you don't really have all the time in the world to have people come over for game nights. Let's do a soundtrack sample just for fun, and I'll be right back to explain more of the tech. I mean, the music is so good in Diddy Kong Racing, and basically the entirety of the game is amazing, from adventure mode to just jumping into races. There isn't anything I could point to at this game and say I would improve it, other than the fact that you want a better frame rate out of it, because that was always the N64's weakest sort of aspect. It would definitely have some spots to start dropping frames and not be a smooth experience. And again, running the performance patch here, trying to overclock everything, you can get away with a lot, but this still has the tendency every once in a while to freeze on some sort of screen transition or load. And that is something that the Decomp could help with a PC port, because you'd no longer be trying to push hardware, or in this instance FPGA recreation of hardware, beyond what it was actually able to do. Because once you get that port, it doesn't matter if you have a potato CPU in there or something that is brand new with the absolute highest clock speed you could possibly get. You're not going to crash it unless there's an error in the code, not because the game will not handle running it faster on a different CPU or a different piece of hardware. And that really is what I mean when I talk about source ports. And I get it. Again, if you double click a recomp, if you double click a source port, at the end of the day, you are still playing a game on PC from the N64, and it really doesn't quote unquote matter how that was achieved. And honestly, people ask me, what's better, a source port based upon a decompilation or a static recompilation porting to PC? And it's all down to the developers and what features they add in and how they do it, because something like Spaghetti Kart here, older footage, it was on 1.0 when I did the video, is absolutely outstanding, but so is the static recomp of Mario Kart. Honestly, you can kind of flip a coin and just decide which one to play that day. They have different feature sets, but again, that's down to what the developers add and not down to whether a static recomp or a source port based upon the decompilation is going to be the better of the two. And I totally get it. This nomenclature, this explanation can get a little bit confusing, because it really does feel like it is doing the exact same thing. Just think of it this way. If you go to a restaurant and you order a dish and they bring it out to you, it's delicious. If you take that exact same recipe and make it at home, just as good, but the two preparation methods were completely different. I know it's not a perfect explanation, but it's kind of the one that I came up with on the fly, because again, I do not script these videos. But imagine Diddy Kong Racing in widescreen at high frame rates with online netcodes so you can play against your friends or even strangers online, maybe a lobby or two, and the ability for people to mod in a ton of courses on this one. Because on the Mario Kart side of things, we have stuff like Mario Kart Amped Up, which has really expanded upon the game a ton. I'd love to see something like that come over to Diddy Kong Racing in a potential PC port in the future. And I'm sure at least one N64 port group is probably looking at this one right now, who's known for porting over a lot of these decomp projects. But we're still waiting for stuff like Paper Mario based upon that decompilation as well. And that is why I say, even though you probably expect this one soon, and I think you will be getting it, nothing really is guaranteed. So we're going to have to wait and see who picks up the mantle on this one and who decides to get a PC port out there first. But don't forget, first isn't always the best. We have to wait and see how everybody does. But I want this frame right here out of something like Diddy Kong Racing. I just think it would be spectacular. One more soundtrack sample just because Rare nailed it, and I'll be right back. Totally nailed the wall right there, but you can leave me a comment down below and you tell me, in a potential PC source port of Diddy Kong Racing, what is the one feature more so than any other you want to see out there? For me personally, it's definitely online support, because as fun as this game is, playing against a bunch of CPU opponents, it is even better, more chaotic, and more lively when you're actually playing against real humans. If they can't be in the room with you, then it's definitely something where online support would matter. Secondarily, obviously a better frame rate, because even though this runs smoothly with all of the mods out there, it still isn't persistent 60 frames a second or better. It still isn't widescreen, and that's definitely something I think would make the game that much more fun, because we've seen it with basically every other N64 PC port. Higher frame rate plus widescreen equals just a better experience. Especially if somebody hasn't played something like Diddy Kong Racing since it actually came out on N64, their nostalgia probably tells them the game ran perfectly, and if they played it again in 2026, their brains, their eyes, and their hands would tell them it definitely wasn't a perfect experience. But it can be that. I definitely think it's going to be, because now as of today, Diddy Kong Racing is 100% decompiled, and that's absolutely a massive monkey-sized milestone. Short of that, if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below, but I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.